Pigweed here. Today we review a stout and discuss two-tier policing and other questions from the mailbag. Well.
Hey!
Good evening.
Good evening, Pigweed. How about some beer and conversation?
That's a great idea. What are we drinking?
Well, Baltimore Breakfast, an oatmeal
Okay.
stout.
Well, I love a good stout.
Yep. All right. So, what's on your mind?
Well, I got a letter about our show, like the decline of Britain or the end of Britain or
right.
whatever. And one aspect of it was two-tier policing.
Sure.
And so I thought we'd talk about that after we get into this.
Okay, fantastic. So, this is from Oliver Brewing, just right up at 83. Is that the right
Oliver?
road? Yeah, aren't they just right up the road here?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Oliver, the Baltimore Breakfast Oatmeal Stout, it's a 6% alcohol by volume.
So an oatmeal stout, are you expecting that they actually put oats in there for what purpose?
Yes, the oats tend to make it a little milder. And actually, this is very delicious. You think of oatmeal like as a breakfast sort of thing, so I guess that's why they're calling it a breakfast stout. But oatmeal stouts, the oats do tend to kind of just take the edges off. And
should give you a little bit of mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I like it. I think it's pretty good.
It's black.
Now it says that it has notes of coffee, a rich chocolatey oatmeal stout with light undertones of coffee.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Chocolatey, coffee-ish. And I wouldn't, if I don't have anything to do that day, I might have one at breakfast.
That's right.
You know, I might schedule a nap in and have a couple for breakfast.
Do you remember the freezing cold camping trip where we?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh, and then the next morning we had, what was it? It
was a breakfast stout, right?
It was something like that. Yeah, it went down nice for that morning after we froze our butts off in the freeze. Okay, all right. So what's this question we get here?
So so this question comes with an article.
Okay.
This guy sent in.
Mark's HR. I don't get that.
You know what? I had trouble with that too. It's Mark's
Hater.
Yes.
Mark's Hater. There we go.
H8R. That's pretty clever.
That's
there.
pretty
And
clever.
a guy I'd like to hang out with one day.
Yeah, all right.
It says that he's talking about the Notting Hill Carnival.
Okay. Yeah.
This is
Something goes on in
a
Britain.
parade
Yeah.
in England, in London. And said some 7,000 Metropolitan Police officers will be on duty over the annual 2-day event. More than 1 million people are expected to descend on Notting Hill. All right, well, so there's going to be a big party. A big party. What's wrong with that? Well, none of the cops want to do it. Last year there were 275 arrests for a range of offenses over the course of 8 people stabbed and 80 officers assaulted.
Lovely.
Very nice. Well, it's a celebration of Afro-Caribbean culture that has grown since 1966 to become Europe's biggest street party. Well, this Mr. Neville here works for the police department. It's the ultimate in two-tier policing. If the behavior of the Notting Hill Carnival was replicated at football matches or at any other event, it would be banned. He added, "We see people openly smoking drugs, abuse of police officers. I challenge anyone to do the same thing on the way to a Millwall football game."
Okay, so I see.
So you see what the two-tier business is?
I see the two-tier thing, but I also see the soft bigotry of low expectations going on.
I hear you.
Yeah, and also just some plain old cowardice.
I think that's going on too. So, how do you read this SBLE into this?
So it's like, well, we could expect the footballers who go to watch a soccer match, well, we would call soccer, we can expect them to behave.
Yes, we would never accept this behavior at a football match.
Right.
However,
if it's these, Caribbean people,
Yeah.
They're savages. We can't expect them to act like
that's kind of what it
people.
comes off as. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we can't have the same standards.
Right.
So
yeah, if you invite a bunch of crazy savages to come, a million crazy savages.
well, you
to
can't
come into your
expect them
town.
to behave like British soccer fans.
Right. Yeah, and that's horrible.
We're not particularly
like not particularly well behaved. I mean, the soccer fans actually can get pretty rough.
They're not. So I just thought, I thought, yes, that Mark's hater is right about the two-tier policing, but I'm seeing SBLE all over the place.
All over, yeah. And we have that kind of problem. I remember the mostly peaceful protests. You know, we have that problem in America too, where we don't expect decent behavior out of certain groups of people, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's
insulting.
You don't find this insulting?
It is insulting. It is insulting, and everybody should be expected to. I mean, I've been to events that are large events with hundreds of thousands of people, and the organizers are saying, "Look, let's set a good example. Everybody, pick up your trash. You know, put it in the in the proper place. Be respectful to the police officers. Thank them for their service. You know, that sort of thing. And that's what civilized people do. But you have this environment where they're spray painting graffiti and they're stabbing people and they're doing all this kind of nonsense. Oh, I guess that's just part of their culture. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Are you saying that?
Because I don't think you want this. I don't think you want this conversation.
Yeah.
Where different cultures need to be held to different standards because some people simply can't control themselves, and we can't expect it. Now you're going to rewrite the whole multiculturalism premise, and then you'd be at the point where once you've decided that different people simply behave differently and can't be held to the same standards.
Yeah.
Now the host culture is going to say, oh, then we don't want you here.
Yes, that's a good point. So if you're gonna go along with this and say, well, we can't expect
people from the Middle East to learn how to control themselves.
We can't expect Pakistanis in England to not, groom 12-year-old girls.
Yeah.
We can't expect that.
That's part of their culture.
That's part of their culture. We have to respect that. Then, okay, fine. If that's the way it's going to be, then let's write that into like how we decide where people come from when they come into our country.
Yes.
Do we want more of these people who behave this way, or do we want?
If you're selling me the argument that we're going to all come together in this kumbaya moment because it's perfectly reasonable to expect a multicultural situation where everybody gets along and respects each other,
right?
Then don't also say yes, but we have different standards of behavior for depending on where you come from.
Exactly. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Now, you had a couple other examples.
Well, this reminded me, since I was on the SBLE kick, I came across this tweet. Gosh, young college-educated white women
are the scourge of the planet.
Might be the worst. Yeah. So here she is. This is, I don't even give her name out. She says, using big words is another form of white supremacy. Blacks who live in urban areas don't have the same access to education as whites. This makes them less smart. If you feel the need to communicate like you're a thesaurus, you are probably a white supremacist.
I see. So people in blacks who live in urban areas can't go to the used bookstore and get a dictionary and a thesaurus? Is that what they're saying?
I went to public school.
I did too.
Then I'm sure that they go to public schools.
Yes.
Are you saying they go to special public schools where nobody uses big words?
And as I recall, there were blacks in our public school, and they had no problem with big words.
They had no. I mean, this is just some.
It's racist.
Twitter deed.
It's horribly racist.
But this goes right up to the governor of New York saying, a lot of black people don't know what computers are.
Gosh. It's kind of like it's kind of like when people say
the white liberals are the most
racist horrible people. It's kind of like when they say, "Oh, you can't expect people to show ID because black people don't know how to get ID." Right? Yeah. And then you have some man on the street guy going out into Harlem and saying, Where do you get your ID? Oh, it's just down there on 24th Street. Over there.
Do you know anybody that doesn't have an ID or not know how to get an ID?
Exactly.
And it might get punched in the face for insulting them.
The things that white, liberal, mostly women say about blacks It's the most racist garbage you will ever hear.
Right,
it's amazing.
Right, these people that live in these white enclaves that don't interact with black people.
That's right.
But they love to tell each other how racist other white people are who actually do live and
That's right.
communicate with black people all the time.
So Tuesday, I had read about. I've never really spent much time in the sauna. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But after swimming Tuesday, I said I'm going to try the sauna. So I went in there. I'm sitting in the sauna.
I like the sauna.
And I'm sitting next to this black guy,
Right.
who gave me like amazing lectures on the benefits of the sauna and like all this like really detailed, interesting stuff.
Right.
Like, no, but that actually didn't happen because he's a black guy. Black guys don't know those kind of. They don't know big words.
He probably went to a school with that didn't have. You don't have the same access to education. Really?
Come on.
You think black people in urban areas, they don't know where school is? They don't.
They
Or
don't
when
know
they
how to
get
read
there,
a
the
book.
teachers don't ask anything from them, or what are we talking about?
It is the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
So that also, can I give point 3 here?
Absolutely.
Is so people being run over happens all the time, which is why we have crosswalks. Mm-hmm. And people, they don't.
My father's best friend's father, Mr. Young, said, "Cross at the corner or visit the coroner."
Yeah.
There you go.
Just don't go willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's New York City. People do it all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But it's but what we want to do is encourage people to go to the crosswalk and wait for the little sign of the guy crossing and then cross there. That's ideally how we want it, and we want to encourage that.
Yes.
But since a disproportionate number of non-white people, non-white, non-Asian, non-Jewish people,
right,
get tickets for jaywalking, they decided, let's just make it not a crime. I mean, you've seen a lot of this idea of if the whole equity crowd looks at numbers on everything, and if the numbers aren't what they want, then it stops being a crime or it starts being a problem.
Well,
if the numbers don't match.
Sort of. I mean, yes, they apply that to certain things, but they don't apply it to other things.
Yes.
Like, for example, if a disproportionate number of a certain group get jaywalking tickets, that matters. But if a disproportionate number of men end up being
die on the job,
being offshore fishermen or lumberjacks or roughnecks on oil rigs or any of those kind of things, they don't care about that.
No.
Bricklayers.
Dangerous, dirty jobs.
If it's disproportionately white men doing that, who cares about that?
Yeah.
It's only...
climbing a power line in a hailstorm to restore power to a neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's going to be a guy. But that's good.
Going to be a guy. And this is where
we don't mind that.
This is where the whole diversity, equity, inclusion thing is exposed as such a ridiculous lie.
Fake.
Because they pretend that they care. They pretend that disproportionate representation means discrimination.
Yes.
But they don't apply it consistently. They don't care that blacks are disproportionately represented in the NBA. They don't care that white men are disproportionately represented in the number of people who die on the job, right?
Right.
So it's just a total lie.
It is. It's manipulated for their own.
Yeah. So and also there's just the problem of the misapplication of statistics. There's always lumpiness in statistics.
Why wouldn't there be?
You're never going to get exactly the same. Okay, so let's say that Greeks are 2% of the population. Okay, does that mean that Greeks should be 2% of every conceivable way of dividing up every...
But they're 8% of deli owners.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well...
Exactly. Okay, maybe they like to have delis or whatever. Maybe when some Greeks came to the United States and they started delis, they formed a network and they found good connections and they called their friends and said, hey, it's a good idea to come start a deli. Yeah. So the idea that you're going to get...
That would be the strange thing. If it actually worked out that the numbers were exactly the same across all cultures, that would be weird.
It would be impossible because there's so many ways to divide up the numbers.
There's so many factors that come into how and why people choose professions and.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. So, okay, Mark's hater.
All right, well, that's good point, but I don't think you took the point far enough. We did that for you. Thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you, Mark Hader.
Who
Now,
else
go
do we have?
Redskins.
Oh, I don't even know where that guy stands.
Yeah, listen to our show about universities and writes, you guys pointed out that universities offer a lot of BS classes, but you also said that students should have to take a bunch of general requirements that have nothing to do with their major. So which classes do you think all students should take?
Okay. Fair.
Well, it's a fair question. Now, I think we made a distinction between sort of a general education and a trade school. Like if you're going to a trade school, then okay, maybe that's a different thing. If you're going to learn to be a bricklayer, maybe you don't need to take Shakespeare.
Yeah, and that's right. So the name of the show was what's the point of the university? Something like that. Right. It is to produce a well-rounded person who also has a specialty.
Yes.
And I don't think we should lose sight of the well-roundedness.
Yes.
When we say that there are too many BS classes that are offered. Well, I say you can take these BS classes as your electives.
Yeah.
But there really should be the general requirements is there for a reason, and you should. I think it should be more honed to the point where all university graduates can anticipate that the other person knows this thing.
Yes.
And so,
what are some basic
101?
Right.
You got write composition.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody needs to learn how to write something.
Yeah.
You've got
the great classics of English literature.
Great classics of English literature.
Right.
You can't sub that out for South American literature.
Right.
You can take that at a 300 level on your own time.
Yeah. You want to do that, fine. But if you're going to be a well-educated person in America, there are certain things you should know. You should have a basic grasp of mathematics.
Yep.
You should have a great basic grasp of things like philosophy, history, literature.
I saw that in the study of the early university that rhetoric was like one of the very early majors you could have back when there was only like 6, 7 majors.
So there are these two things called the trivium and the quadrivium.
All right.
The trivium is grammar, logic, rhetoric.
Okay.
Okay, and that's sort of basic level stuff. That's before you even get to university. You should learn grammar, logic, and rhetoric in regular school. The quadrivium is arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Which I thought that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't usually think of astronomy as being particularly
that's interesting.
valuable.
But that's in the early days of the university. I did see referring back to the previous letter on SBLE, this a professor being chastised for correcting the grammar
Oh my gosh.
of a black student.
Right.
I mean, talk about your SBLE.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have grammar and logic and rhetoric, if you can't even correct it, all right. So all right, anything anybody writes and any answer that anybody gets. In this class is going to be pass fail.
I was in some science class at the University of Maryland, and we were in the you have the lectures on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you have Tuesday, Thursday. You have the thing with the TA, right? I can't remember what that's called. So we're there with the TA, and he comes in and he says, "Okay, everybody, what is this word?" He goes up and he writes WHETHER, and we're like. He was Indian, okay? So the people in the class were thinking we're helping him. Okay? So he writes WH, but that's like weather or not. And he says, well, what's this word? And he writes WEATHER. Well, that's weather, like whether it's raining or snowing or something. He says, well, what's this word? And he writes WETHER. And everybody's like, I don't know.
Right.
He says, well, I didn't know either. I looked it up. It's a castrated sheep, like a bellwether.
Oh.
A bellwether.
Oh, really?
BELLWETHER. Bellwether. So here I am in a science class being corrected. I don't think I ever put WETH, but somebody in the class wrote this in the paper, and he was correct. He was correcting us on spelling.
Yes.
In a science class.
Doesn't matter. Everywhere.
Yes. That's what school is about. Is to learn these kinds of things.
So for us to have this, history of Western civilization 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
So you've got ancient Greece to Middle Ages and Renaissance to present times. Boom. You can't sub that out for the history of China.
Right.
I
I think you should have some basic instruction in religion. You should know the world religions and what they
that's
they
good.
teach.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that generally like that. So rhetoric or the world religions, I don't see that as general requirements. I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm saying I don't.
But we don't see it very much. Or how about the Socratic method? I mean, maybe that should be taught as a basic. So
well, you could. I mean, now there was also, as I recall, like a humanities elective where you had. I took psychology, but I think it was psychology, sociology, anthropology.
Yeah.
And something that's fine. You know, you can. There's some flexibility in there. Not everybody has to take the same one. But now, this is what I was thinking of. Yes, we all took ninth grade civics.
Yeah.
But what about a college level of civics and citizenship? I don't.
Or
think
understanding the Constitution.
Yes. So so it would be Constitution, how the government is structured,
right?
How bills become laws,
how to pay off your local politician. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think that there's enough of that we all share. I'm going to put that on the list.
Yeah.
No matter no matter what your major is.
I agree. I would also put in things like logical thinking, cognitive biases, like understanding things like.
I think you could work that into the rhetoric class.
Yeah,
you could lump that in.
Into
to making a sound argument and forcing kids. Right now, we kids literally will go into a cry room if they're told something that they don't already believe. And I would in that class there, I would make you defend a position that you don't already believe.
I think that is a lost art. We really need to force people to argue for the position that they don't like. And that doesn't mean that you have everybody fill out a questionnaire and say, "Oh, I see you're a liberal. You're going to have to defend this conservative." No, it's just like you're going to be randomly assigned some position that you might agree with it, you might disagree with it. It doesn't matter,
right? Because you learn how to form an argument.
Yes.
You learn how
to do some research and figure out. Like, so there's this thing called straw manning, right? Where you take the other person's argument and you make it seem ridiculous. You make it like a straw man, and then you easily burn it down. There's another thing called steel manning, where you take the other person's argument and you make the best possible version of that argument. And that's something that we've lost.
That sounds awfully triggering.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to force me to argue for something that I don't agree with,
it'd be uncomfortable.
But
that's the point. That's why you're here.
It honestly would not be uncomfortable for me. But the point is, I want to learn what's the best argument for the other side, because
then you have the better chance to making the counter argument.
Yeah, if I know what the best argument for the other side is, then I can decide, well, is the best argument good enough or not good enough? But if I'm dealing with like the superficial, crappy version of the argument, I don't really even know what's going on.
And you're in the bubble, and everybody in the whole class agrees with you. Then your argument doesn't have to be good at all.
Right.
It often isn't, because everybody's patting you on the back.
I think
because all you're doing is having the right opinion.
Yeah.
You're not having the right argument.
I think maybe we had somewhat of a charmed life in that when we were in school, the idea of having a different opinion in class was, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, was celebrated. Like, I remember college professors, you'd disagree with them, and you say, well, that's another perspective. And then they would say, okay, I think this, but that's another perspective, and that's okay to think about things that way. And that was actually pretty valuable.
I think so. So yes, I think there should be. Now, what I would not do is a top-down like government mandate telling all universities that all students must know these things. But I would just like if there was a tendency towards an agreement that there's a baseline. As an American university student, we're all going to know these things.
Yes.
And before we move on, because that's what makes you a university graduate. Because I know university graduates who I don't recognize that they actually went to university.
Yeah. I've worked with some very well-educated people who were just dumb. And dumb in ways that I didn't expect. And people with law degrees, people with advanced degrees of various sorts, and you just think, really, you don't know that? It's kind of surprising. Yeah. And
I would like to inspire in like freshman orientation, and so I don't know how you do this, but it just inspire kids. Don't look at these classes as these forced classes that you're going to try.
Exactly.
Like this is
why you're here.
How can I do the minimum amount of work and still get a B in this class? Yes. That is not the approach.
No.
You are here to be an interesting and educated person when you leave here.
Yes.
And you do that by taking interest in classes that don't have anything to do with your major.
Yes, and there needs to be more of that. They need to go to the library and say, see that library? You know how many books there are in there? You know how much there is for you to learn? Well, we're going to give you a baseline. We're going to give you like a solid foundation. Nice. So that you can understand, so you can go in there and study whatever you want, but we're going to give you a solid foundation of knowledge so that you can build on that.
Yeah. An art appreciation or music appreciation, that's not a bad move there.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, go Redskins.
I'm glad you said go Redskins. I won't say the other name. I've just decided I won't say the other name for the team, and for this basic reason, I just won't do anything that the woke want me to do.
Yes, this is white liberal virtue signaling. Mm-hmm. American Indians are not nearly as offended as suburban white women are of the name Redskin.
Yeah.
Anywho.
All right. Go Redskins.
Go Redskins.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.